So now are you getting?
Yeah.
So last class we discussed about this SSL termination. So basically this intention of this concept is, so if you want to convert this existing application, if you're having some HTTP, right? So if you want to convert this HTTP to HTTPS, so basically we're going with some SSL termination, nothing but a secure socket layer. So first of all, we required some SSL certificate. Basically, if you want to get this SSL certificate, we're having some process in order to do that, right? So we need to create some resource group DNS zones, ritual network subnet, and then followed by some ritual mission as well. And if you go for this SSL certificate, so it is provided by so many vendors, but out of that we have gone with some Komodo SSL store. So within that respective website, basically you need to provide some details, your information, all these things. So then simply you can purchase these things. But while getting this certificate, while the process is going on, basically they're going to ask different options. In that we need to have some CSR as well, certificate signing of request. So in order to get this, we have gone for the CSR generator, one more site. So there we're getting some key. Within that respective key, we're having some private and public keys, right? And then we have got your respect to these all these things is done basically. So then you're going to get the your SSL certificate, but immediately we are not able to get it. Basically it requires some 10 to 15 minutes. Initial the status is pending, and then upon going on, it will be add to step basically. So once if it is an add to, you are able to download this respective certificate. So once if you download this respective certificate, you're going to get so many files, right? Out of that we require only CER and CRT files. So once you have got these respective files, so within that they're having some uh, 4 to 5 files will be there. But out of that respective 5 files, and if you observe this command, basically finally we need to get some pfx file. So in order to get this pfx file, so we require two more files. One is your private key.pem file and your set.crt file. So how to get these two files? So we discussed on yesterday, right? So once check these all these things. If you are having something, if you're not fine, if you're not understanding something, let me know. Okay. So once if you got these two files, once if you execute this command and put the console, right, you're going to get the respective pfx file as well. And even on yesterday we discussed about some a software called as a WinSAP as well, right? So what is the use of WinSAP, or when we need to go for WinSAP also we discussed. And once we got this pfx file, so then I think we have created some application gateway, one more service, a new service within the Azure cloud account. Application gateway we have created basically, right? So within this application gateway, we have created some what we call backend pools, or we have created some what we call backend pools. And after that, what we have done, basically we have created some backend pools and some different options within the application gateway. So once you've created these all these things application gateway, so whatever the IP address which are going to get it, so that thing just we have added to DNS zones as well, right? Finally, existing application like shivatutorials.com, initially this was under HTTP, right, where we have moved this HTTP to HTTPS. But while once this creation of application gateway is done, so somewhere we need to upload this pfx file as well, whatever the pfx file which have got it. Okay, so then only it will convert existing http to https basically. So these things, so much of process is included. These all these things we have discussed on yesterday, right? So just go through it once. So if you're not getting somewhere, let me know. So we'll discuss the same on tomorrow. Okay. So today we're going to discuss about storage accounts. Okay, so just storage accounts store the data. Okay, store the data basically. So different types of services. So that is container or blob service, file share, queue, table. So these are the different types of services. Okay, so kind of no need to worry about the services. Anyway, we will discuss within the Azure Cloud platform itself, where we will have all these respective services. So at this point of time, so just you need to understand storage account, nothing but just to store the data. That is the one thing. And within the storage account, we're having different types of storages. So like container, file share, queue, table, so like that basically. Okay. So before going for storage account, why we are using storage account basically? Okay, why I mean why these companies or why these websites or organizations whoever using this services storage account as a service, right, why they are going with this storage account as a service? The storage account is one service within the Azure cloud, right, basically. So if some company they're using some storage account means maybe they definitely they don't have their own storage. So most of the companies they don't have their own storage, they're going to purchase some third party service or maybe some third party vendors. Why they're going basically? So that thing we're going to discuss now. Okay, so if you go to maybe some amazon.in. Okay, so if you type, this is one thing, and if you type mobiles, something, I'm going with this site. Okay, so if you observe this two URLs, right? So one is amazon.in and one more thing is https m.media hyphen amazon.com something images dot something jpg, right? So is these two sites are same? Any of you? Is these two sites are same? Yes or no? Is these two sites are same or not? Any of you?
No, Shiva. Yes.
No or yes? Is it same or no?
No.
So basically, if you observe, okay, Amazon is having its own cloud computing. So there is, as you know already, AWS, right? Basically. So what they're doing is, so if you observe this Amazon.in, so just have typed some mobiles. We're having some different product categories, right? Basically. So if you type something keyword within this Amazon.in, you're getting so many results, right? So if you type some mobiles, right, we have got so many different brands like Samsung, iPhone, or maybe some Redmi. So many things we're going to get it, and each and every cells or every images, what are the images which are displayed there, is having its own features and its own importance. These all these things, right? If you observe that particular site, I mean, I have gone with the Samsung, right? So if you observe at the left side, they're having so many things will be there, right? They will display at how it look like front end, how it will look like at the back end, right? So they will zoom in, zoom out. These all these things is going to happen basically. Maybe if possible, they're going to include some video as well. So nowadays, even they're including some video as well. So in that respective video, they're going to show the what are the features or how the mobile look like. These all these things they're going to showcase. But previously we don't have this feature. Nowadays, around maybe some 1 year onwards, you're getting that respective feature. Maybe we are not able to recognize, but they have added recently. So if you observe these things, basically they will store these images or related to that respect to mobile. I mean mobile related images. If you go with the Samsung, Samsung is having some images, right? These images are videos. So these all these things they're going to store in another storage account. I mean they will not store in Amazon.in. This is the best example. Okay, so Amazon is using some AWS storage accounts. In that they are storing this respect to images, videos for that respect to mobile, like a Samsung. So like that for each and every category they are going to store it. So that is the reason whenever if you're typing some Amazon.in, immediately that site is loading, right, very fast. So why it is loading very fast here, even though you're having so many of images, so many of videos, because they're maintaining this all these images, videos, is all these things in a third party account. I mean not in here. If you go with Amazon, it is not a third party. They are using their own cloud computing platform, nothing but AWS. They're storing all these respect to images, these all these things in their AWS storage account basically. So that is the reason it will load very fast Amazon.in. Okay, not only Amazon.in, even if you go with some Flipkart as well, they will use some storage account. Maybe it can be Amazon, or mostly it will not be Amazon. Basically, they are the competitors, right? They will use some another cloud computing vendor basically. So like that. So that is the reason. So this they're going to if you observe this Amazon.in or some e-commerce sites, so why these sites are loading very fast means, so this is the one of the feature which they're maintaining at inbuilt basically while designing all, while developing this application. Okay, so that they can achieve robustness and scalability of the application here basically. Okay, so uh, is it fine, all of you? Any doubts here? So why we are going for storage account? You have got some idea now. Any doubts in these things?
No, no doubt.
Yes. Some of you are asking something. I'm not able to hear that.
No doubts.
Okay. So as I mentioned, this about two websites are different, and Amazon.com consists of millions of images and even some videos as well, right? So that is the reason they're storing in some different AWS storage account. So that is the reason that site is loading very fast. Okay, so same concept, the storage accounts we're discussing in Azure cloud computing point of view. So go to this portal.azure.com. So first of all, here we need to create some resource group. So let us try to create some resource group. So just I'm creating some Azure test. Next you can create. Finally click on create. So in between you're getting some disturbance. Sorry about that. Actually I was bad with cold. So here type some storage accounts. Okay, go with this service. This is a new service again, storage accounts. Click on create. So select the resource group, whatever the resource group which I have created basically. So you can give some storage account name, maybe some test. The field can contain only lowercase letters and numbers. Name must be 3 to 24. So this is the condition they have added recently. Previously we don't have this one. So test. See here, storage account name is already taken. Means it should be unique. Okay, it is somebody taken already. Maybe you can add one. Okay. So first of all, it should be a unique, and it we are unable to provide some capital letters, right? It should be name. I mean, it should be alphabetics and numbers. That's it. I think it will not allow some special characters. It is not allowing. Okay. So now here, if you observe this redundancy option, we're having some local redundant, geo redundant, zone redundant, and geo zone redundant. Anyway, geo zone is nothing but a combination of geo and zone. But basically, we're having three things. One is local, geo, and zone redundant, right? So if you observe these three keywords, right, what is this intention of this thing is? So we discussed about one concept called as a what we call in availability sets, right? We discussed about two values, right? One is updating and one more thing is, what is the one more one? Hmm, updating and give me 1 minute. Okay, updating and fault domains, right? So if you remember this fault domains concept, it doesn't record update domain, fault domain. So basically this fault domain, what we're doing, I mean, what is the importance of fault domain here basically? So if you observe this concept, basically uh, if some application is down or maybe some server is down, right? We discussed about rack and server and web application we discussed it there, and also if some version, I mean some software is updating also, still we're getting some response, right? These things we discussed within this file domain, right? So if you observe this file domain, just we discussed about multiple racks. Within these respective racks we're having some servers, right? And if a particular server is down for that respective rack, so we are able to get the response from the another rack, from the respect to server, whatever server which is falls under that respect to rack, right? So as I mentioned you, so most of the times a complete rack will not be done. So if that is the worst case, so then we're going to get the response from the another rack. And basically if you observe, whenever if you're going with some fault domain as a 3, we are maintaining the same application on multiple racks of that respect to servers. I mean, existing application simply we're duplicating. What I mean to say, right? So if you're having, let us assume I'm having some web application 1, the same jar or war file of that respect to application I'm maintaining in another racks as well, right? So is this concept is fine, all of you, this file domain concept? Any doubts, any of you? So if you understand that respect to concept, understanding of these things is very easy. So have you remember this file domain concept, all of you? Shweta, Narsimha, Jagdish, Vidya, Ramesh, Sujit.
Remember Shiva? Mm,
Yes. So here if you go with the locally, so what this locally is, master and duplication data will be stored on the same data center. Okay. Master and duplication of data. I mean this web application 1, right? Web application 1 we are duplicating into a multiple racks. So these all racks are belong to some data center. So as we discussed it on there, right? So here master copy, I mean this web application is a master copy, let us assume. So and again we are duplicating this application into a multiple racks, right? This master and duplication data will be stored on the same data center whenever if you're going with locally. Whenever if you're going with some redundancy as a local, what is the meaning of that is master and duplication data will be stored on the same data center here. Okay. And if you're going with some geo redundant, right? So the data is going to store in two different data centers in the same region. Okay, so this data is going to store in two different data centers in the same region. That is nothing but a geo redundant. So we discussed about availability zones as well, right? Availability zones is we're having a multiple data centers for a particular region, right? Here in the same region means, so this data centers is belongs to one in a specific region, maybe some Hyderabad, that is assume. So in Hyderabad data centers itself, that respect to application, that respect to of your application will be available basically. That is nothing but a geo redundant. Okay, if you are going with the zone redundant, right, the data is going to store in two different data centers of different regions, maybe some Hyderabad and Bangalore. That is a zone redundant basically. Okay, some if you can go with some use case, let us assume you are having some application, okay, maybe some e-commerce, and within that e-commerce you are delivering some flowers, let us assume, or bouquets. Okay, but you know that most of your customers, 90% of your customers, we are going to get it only from Hyderabad, let us assume. Okay, so then at any point of time your application should not be done at least for Hyderabad region, right? Because you have 90% of customers, 90% of customers reach only from Hyderabad when compared to South India, that is assume. So then that case what you can go with here basically, best option is you can go with geo redundant when compared to zone redundant here basically. Because if you're going with geo redundant, so you're deploying your application only in Hyderabad data centers. Let us assume out of three, right? Basically, if you're going with file domain as a three, two out of this two replications or two copies of your application, we're deploying only on Hyderabad location or Hyderabad data centers. Two different data centers within the same region, geo redundant, right? And remaining one copy you can deploy in Bangalore. Maybe you are going to get some customers from South India as well, right? So even though you're getting some customers from South India, so that data center is going to access, I mean whatever the customers who are accessing out of Hyderabad, maybe they can point for that respect to data center, basically, simply. So this Hyderabad two data centers, right? So this is important. So because at any point of time your application should not be down. So if definitely you know that anyway data center will not be down. That is very very rare case, basically, right? So even though if it is down, if something is happened wrong, sorry, you're able to access the data from the another data center of the same region. I mean Hyderabad. So there is nothing but a geo redundant, basically. So based upon that, you can select this redundancy. Okay, based upon your customers or number of visitors or customer base. Simply we can say that instead of this thing, customer base. So how many? If you are getting only for a specific region, also, it will this redundancy concept is very utilized whenever if you are going with a specific region. If you are having a, for a specific region, if you are having some n number of customers, so then this redundancy is very very useful, basically. Okay, so and that is the reason if you're going with why this Amazon is maintaining some different websites here, amazon.com or amazon.in or amazon.uk, something is there, right? Why they're maintaining? Because of this consistency of the results or robustness of that particular site here. Okay, if you go with the amazon.in, 90% of customers only from India, remaining 10 customers out of India, right? So that is the reason they will deploy their application mostly on Indian data centers, so that this what irrespective of these regions, right? So if you observe some technological point of view, if you consider some bandwidth, so these all these things, right? So within India, if you are Indian customer who is accessing Indian user, if you're accessing amazon.in, so you're going to get so much of robustness when somebody is accessing some amazon.in, maybe on USA or maybe some UK, because internet bandwidth, right? So between US to India, how much of internet bandwidth will be there, right? So this is somewhat technical, basically, right? So but within India you're going to access very fast. That is the nothing but what they're using as a, I mean, that is the reason they're maintaining some different sites, basically. Same replication they're maintaining in a different servers of different regions. Okay, this is nothing but a local, geo and zone redundant. So let us summarize these points. Types of redundancy. So one is locally, master, and duplication of data will be stored on the same data center. And one more thing is geo redundant. The data is going to store in the two different data centers in the same region. So zone redundant, the data is going to store in two different data centers of different regions. Okay, so is three things is fine, all of you? Any doubts? This local, geo, zone. So I'm going with locally. So next, advanced, okay. So next, networking, next data protection, next tags, next you can create. Finally click on create. Go with storage accounts. Okay, so these are the things what I have mentioned here. Within the storage account, these are the different types of storage accounts, right? So one is container, file shares, queues, tables, basically. Okay, most of them they will go with containers. Okay, what these containers we will discuss. Basically, if you go with the containers, so to store the data like files, folders, or even some videos, images, so all different uh, categories of data or different types of data we can store here. Okay, so if you go with the images, it is unstructured data, videos, unstructured data, right? Or maybe some image copies, maybe some reviews, or maybe these things are nothing but a structured data, right? If you observe some, we are for a particular product we're going to find some n number of reviews, right? So this is nothing but a structured data. So these type of things we can store it in a container basically. But if you're going with some file share, right? So file share is basically LAN sharing, local area network sharing here. Means if you observe in some, maybe some mid-level companies or maybe some startups, so let us assume you're maybe if you're going some startup, maybe some 20 to 30% is available, right? All these systems, all these laptops, they will connect in a single network. Means if you're let us assume if I want to share some file basically, right? So most of the companies, even we are not able to inject your pen drives, or you can transfer this pen drive, these things they will not allow. I mean, first of all, these pen drives will not work even if you're keeping the pen drives basically. That is a breach, or what we can, that is a security issues basically for that respect to organization, right? So that is the reason. So if you copy paste some folder in maybe some D drive, or maybe in some location, so that application or maybe some that respective folder, it will be accessed. So all these respective 30% here, or 30 developers, whoever is working on that respective organization. So only if and only if you are connected with that respect to organization network. Okay, every organization falls under some network, right? So that is that network, if you're connected, so then only you're able to access that respective folder. So if you're outside of that respective network, let us assume you came to your home and you're connected to your home network, right? So then that file is not available, that folder is not available, whoever shared by somebody. So when it is possible, if and only if that respect to computers or laptops, if it is connected in a single organizational network or single network, simply you can say that, then only it is possible. That things we're calling as in LAN sharing or local area network. So that all systems need to connect in a single network, simply you can say that. then only that folder sharing or file sharing is possible. That is nothing but a file share basically. Okay, if you're going with queue, whether it is created or deployed, so this is best example is here we're getting some queues. Right, sorry. Mm, See here, this all notifications we're getting, right? If some service if you're creating within this Azure cloud account, we're getting some notifications. This is, if you observe, this is nothing but a queue format. So these things what we're calling as a queue. This is the best example basically. Okay, if you're creating something service within this Azure cloud account, so some we're getting some notification format. This is nothing but a queue format here basically. Okay, if you want to implement these types of requirements, then you can go with queues, but this is a big process basically, right? So let us assume if you have created some storage account, so that we need to cross check a number of things, whether that storage account is created or not. So if it is not created, we need to display some different message. If it is created, some message in between while creating the storage account. So if something is done, maybe some your internet is done, something is done, right? We need to display another message. These all these things we need to check it, need to cross check it here basically. These things falls under queue. Table, so table you know already, right? So table is nothing but the data is going to be stored in a table, so it can be form of rows and columns basically. So if you want to store some mostly it is a structured data, right? So you're not able to store some images, files or videos. These things we're not able to store in the tables format, so only we can store some structured data. So then we need to go with the tables here basically, right? These are the different storage types which is falls under storage account. So is these four things is fine: containers, file share, queues, and tables. Any doubts on these things? Fine. So that's all for today. Today I'm stopping here.